Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Adobo and Avocados podcast. So, my name is Marie, and with me today I have my colleague.
Nicole van der Hoeven. I am Marie's colleague, and I'm coming to you today from Singapore. But we also today have a special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself, special guest?
Yes, of course. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me, Mahi and Nicole. It's amazing to be here. I know you forever now, I think, Mahi. And Nicole, we met on Twitter, like meet on Twitter. And yeah, I'm Rafaela. I have been in QA now for 15, 16 years.
Wow.
I'm gonna stop counting soon. But yeah, I started as a manual QA. Then I went to, I think most of people did that. Um, but then I started to do automation, and nowadays I do a lot of monitoring and alert tasks. But I have been in projects that I was DevOps. I have played many roles already in so many different projects, but yeah, especially because I'm a contractor now, so it's kind of part of the job. But yeah, I'm from Brazil and I moved to UK 10 years ago, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Well, it's really great to have you on board with us. I know we've taken quite some, like gap between the first episode, but that was because I was sick and then Nicole had to go to CubeCon for another conference. So it's really great that now we're back with another episode. And we've talked about this for a while, like maybe we can get, some other like women or some other guests as part of our podcast, because really we want to speak to other women who are sort of in the same career path, and maybe we can talk about like what your experiences, what your journey has been in tech, and really things that are you're doing at the moment. So I guess to start, yeah, what's been your like how did you get into tech? Basically, did you had a traditional background, or did you fell into it accidentally? Like, tell us a bit more about your journey into tech so far.
Yeah, sure. Um, I've been quite lucky. I'm not gonna deny because my both of my parents they were in tech, so I had a lot of influence from them. So my dad he was a developer. I think it was COBOL he was doing, and my mom as well. And then after a while, my mom became a teacher in tech for kids and teenagers. And my dad he just opened his company to also teach tech to different kind of people, like from all over any age, not only kids. And also like programming a lot for different companies in my hometown. And yeah, I had a lot of influence. He tried to teach me to code in Clipper, MS DOS, that black screen, and yeah, I kind of like it, but I think my personality also played a big role because I was always interested in building things and creating things, and I was more like my favorite game was playing with racing cars, the remote control ones. I used to love that as well, and I used to love to try to fix things. So one day I tried to fix the I forgot the name, but it's that machine that you put the that old tapes. I tried to fix that, and of course didn't work because it was, I don't know, 10. So I didn't know what I was doing. But then yeah, I noticed that I was gonna go for the like since early age, which you can see that my personality played a big role because my sister she went to do biology, which is completely different. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And then yeah, and then after when I was 14, I got really interested in creating blogs and uh, really, using design on that time was really like full of colors. But I used to create blogs online and create websites. And then when I was 14, my mom, she used to work in these schools, and she was kind of selling my websites for these schools. So it was pretty nice. And I actually thought I was gonna go for web development and design, these kind of things. But my first internship was on QA, because it's quite hard to choose. So my friend was working a company, they needed a QA, and then I went from there. So that's why I actually start to do QA, because up until then I thought that was just development and just web development as well. And yeah, and after this I just started doing manual QA. I love it too. And then this really increased my skill on critical thinking and trying, and even like the personality again, these kind of explore and try to figure out things played a big role as well. And yeah, and I think that's it. I don't want to talk too much, because that when I start, I will finish after 2 hours.
It's really interesting because Nicole, on our first episode, like we were discussing about, how we got into tech. And I think like because of the way we were raised, like like our environment that we were in, like tech wasn't something that was really introduced to us on like an early like environment setting. Whereas with Rafaela's case, because both her parents work in tech, so that sort of environment like really played some role into like leading her to where she is now. So it's like really great to hear like different stories on how people get into tech. Yeah.
Yeah, I think just to put one little thing extra, I think if I didn't go for tech, I would become, I don't know, a lawyer or something like, or
Mhm.
an, I don't know. This is the things that or biology as well as my sister.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I wanted to ask about how you got from Brazil, you said, to the UK, because it sounds like you work in Brazil a little bit, or was that already after you went to the UK?
No, I was working in Brazil for quite a long time. So I moved out was 2014. I was already working for 5, 6, 7. Sorry, I'm making the counts here in my mind. 7, 8 years in Brazil. So it was because I had the internship, so this counts as well. So I was working for 7, 8 years.
Mm.
Um, I also forgot to mention, because I start working with these websites for the schools, but I also helped, completing the question as well, because why I moved to UK, how I moved to UK, because in Brazil, you have basic English in the schools, but you definitely need to go for it if you want to actually learn English and speak English. And I remember that I started to practice my speaking English, giving teaching kids English as well, and tech. So I was like, even stressing a bit more my skills on English. And then after 7 years working in Brazil, I just moved not moved I traveled to USA to see my brother. He used to live in Brooklyn, and it was the first time that I was traveling abroad, and it was such a nice experience. And then I thought, oh my god, Brazil is not the right place to live, because it's quite dangerous. You don't feel safe, you cannot walk in the evening by yourself in many places. And even my hometown, that is not that big, it's not like Sao Paulo. um, it is like Brighton to here to London. Even if it is like, I was I was like not feeling safe. I had my phone taken 2 or 3 times. So yeah, it was not really a good place live safe and have quality of life. So after this first travel, I'm really addicted to Harry Potter. I started to I read all the books then when I was 11. So I had a bit of this thing of London in my mind and UK, and this also played a big role about choosing the place that I was gonna move out, because after this first travel I knew that I was gonna move out. I just didn't know where yet. And then my grandma, she was already super old and she was Portuguese. So I kind of was lucky again because I could got the Portuguese passport, and UK was still part of EU when I moved to UK. And then I rushed to get all the documents and everything done before she passed away. And then yeah, and then I thought, okay, I'm coming, and then I came. So it was a really maybe unresponsible decision because I never came here. I didn't know anybody here. I came just because of this childhood thing that I love the culture and everything. So yeah, that's why I came here. But the other option was Canada. But I knew that was gonna be super cold, more than here. So I thought, no, not for me. So that's why.
So you can thank Harry Potter then for bringing you here.
Yeah, exactly. This is the main reason. Oh.
I think that that's something that we don't talk about enough. Like, I
Mm,
think we talk about being women in tech, but we don't really talk about the emotional toil of being immigrants in tech. And I
mm,
know it's like it's the same industry, you would think that it's the same thing, but
yeah.
different countries are at different stages in the maturity or their adoption of tech, and there are a lot of cultural things that come into play. I'm curious, like when you moved to the UK, because you'd already worked in Brazil, so you had like a real comparison. Were there things that kind of surprised you?
Mm, yeah, I actually was really surprised because um, I thought that Brazil was really primitive in terms of tech, and also woman working in companies. And it's actually, I felt the opposite. I actually felt that in Brazil you are really like mature for the country, like in terms of tech. Of course, um, I think UK is still a bit more advanced, but Brazil is not that, because I really thought that Brazil was like coding with like COBOL, comparing these kind of things. But Brazil was not that bad, and also in terms of woman in tech, I know it's a huge difference. Actually, in UK, I think there are less women in tech than in Brazil. Like from my experience, of course, but I have worked in teams that were, I don't know, 7, 8 women, and here usually I'm the only one,
Yeah.
or there is just another one. Um, but yeah, that was something that really surprised me in terms of working between UK and Brazil. um, and also, of course, in Brazil, um, yeah, how can I say that? The environment, because you work with a lot of men, is a bit more they're not as politically correct. I don't know exactly how can I say that, but they make more jokes, I can say that. And here they are more concerned, so this is really good.
Mm.
I'm not complaining. I actually prefer, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's great that you've said that, when you were in Brazil, were working with 7 or 8 women. I don't think I've ever been in that position. So, to anyone who doesn't know, Rafaela and I actually used to work together. So that's how I met her. And every single project that I've just been part of, it's always just, one or like at most like 2 women. Like I remember when we were at News UK, there
Yeah,
was me, Rafaela, and then another woman named Kavita. But then the rest, it's all men, right? And then
yeah,
when I moved to projects after that, again, I was the only woman. When I was on my previous workplace at News, it was just me and another like female colleague. But it's just that like it's there's I've never been in a situation where there's more than 7 or 8 women that I work with like on the same team.
Yeah, just to say, was more woman in QA. In development was none,
Yeah.
basically. So this is the difference as well. In Brazil, there was none in development, but in QA there were,
More.
yeah, 4 or 5. But to be honest, as well, maybe I think in terms of QA in Brazil, they were not doing as much test automation. They were focusing more on manual QA. The companies that I was working. So I was the only one doing the automated tasks.
Mm.
But yeah, maybe that's why as well.
Yeah, you've touched on something that I noticed about my experience as well. I think when I started with just like, sorry if you hear a bird, that's because we
You
do have
probably
a bird in the
heard my dog as
background
well.
that
Yeah, it's okay.
seems to react to my voice. But anyway, when I briefly did functional testing, and it was like manual testing when I got into the industry, there were definitely more women. And
Yeah.
then, as I got into automation and then performance, and like it seemed like the more technical I went, the fewer women I worked with. Like I've personally only worked with two female performance testers, and
Mm.
I'm not really sure why. That's definitely something that I noticed in both, because I've worked in Australia and in the Netherlands, and then remotely after that. And I just think it's a shame. I don't know if it's a cultural thing or not.
Yeah. Well, I think it's much more wider than that because I remembered when I was at uni, so I did computer science. Um and like maybe it's just that perception that when it comes to, STEM subjects, so computer science being one, that it's really more catered, to men. And I remember during my first year of uni, I was looking around, the lecture hall, and I was trying to look at like how many women are, part of this, course, like of this, subject, and there's not a lot. So it's yeah, it's quite. I guess that's the reality that we're in, because even when it comes to projects like what Rafaela said, like um the more technical it gets, like the less like women we see. But why is that? Is it because you know um we're not doing more like advocacy, or is it much more deeper than that? Like, is it more like, does it start earlier on, like on someone's childhood? So there's like a lot of factors that can influence it. But yeah, like
Yeah,
overall it's
definitely.
quite I guess sad that this is the situation that we are in.
Yeah, that is true. And during the uni, now that you mentioned yours, I remember, and this was maybe another difference as well, because um, there were maybe half of the class was just woman. So I was really impressed as well by that. And of course, in the end of the day, in the end of the course, most of them, they were gone. Some went to do psychology. Another one, she started to work in tech, but then she moved to HR. So I really don't know. It's a great question, because maybe also, because the competition is quite hard to keep up, and I don't know. And then you need to sacrifice some things. I
Mm.
don't know, and also afraid to try and be judged. I used to be like that, so I can complete relate. Especially when I start my blog, I was really concerned about. Oh, I cannot say that, but Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ, and of course you have, because it's internet, it's out there. There are many people that are gonna put you down, and this demotivate you a bit. But then you need to look at the bright side, and then you see the other people saying, "Oh, thanks for that. I was having the same situation. I was having the same difficulty," and this kind of helped me keep going and just sharing my knowledge, because I started blogging because was completely selfish. It was because of me. I have a really bad memory, and I forget about things that I have done 1 2 years ago. And then, when you start a new project, sometimes you need to do the same thing again. And then I just used to look at my blog and look at the problems that I had and everything, and try to avoid. But yeah, I don't know. It's a good question, Mahi.
So I have a question for both of you. How, in your daily jobs, how aware are you of the fact that you are a woman? Like, how much does that play or not play a part in your daily life?
Um, I think before, especially when we go to like the office, and then you sit around and um yeah, you just mostly look at most men. Although the last time I was full time in the office, there was another like woman with me as part of the team. She was also a QA, and she actually transitioned to become a developer. But yeah, during those times, like i think I think I was very much aware, because even like with the conversations, like I can't really relate too much. They mostly talk about things like football, or mostly like conversations that men would like engage with. So there could be times when, yeah, it can be quite difficult to engage with. And I know nowadays, like more and more companies are being, I guess, aware of using like gender neutral terms. But because like before, if someone says, "Hey guys," like there's that sort of feeling that people are just referring to mostly men. So now we've got like alternative terms like folks, or all, just to keep it more neutral. So there's definitely some occasions. And I think I've discussed this with you, Nicole, like personally. But sometimes I feel like I really have to dress down as well, because my first sort of experience, like obviously when you work on um like a project where they require you to wear like office clothes, like options for women, like dresses, skirts, things like that. And I remember, like I got some comments, like because I was wearing a skirt. So I felt like over the years I had to dress down a bit just so I could fit in, and um I don't hear any comments that I wouldn't necessarily want to hear. How about you, Rafaela? Did you experience the same?
Yeah, I'm guilty about saying "Hey guys" because I do that a lot, and it's completely expression. It's like Jesus Christ, I'm not Catholic, but I do that because I was raised in Brazil. But yeah, I try to be more aware of that, definitely, because yeah, and I can see that everybody in my team and most of people that I have worked here, especially here in UK, they are more aware of that. So you kind of feel that okay, they know that it's not only men. Of course, in the back of the mind, they know, but because we used to do this for so long that we don't realize that we can say hey girls and hey
Yeah.
guys as well. But yeah, I think for me, the thing with the conversations, definitely is hard to find a topic sometimes. I hate football, especially, and everybody comes to me and talk about football, because Brazil, and I have no idea. I'm a fake Brazilian. I say that because I hate beer, I hate carnival, I hate football as well. I barely watch World Cup just because it's a big thing, but I don't like anyway. But yeah, it's hard. Sometimes I don't know. I just try to use memes memes, because I think this is universal. Yeah, this is what I try to do, and maybe that's why I keep using memes all the time, including on my blog as well. So I think it's something that independently of the gender, humor, it's a thing that everybody can fit in. But yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I would say I'm always conscious of it. I'm always aware of it. And that doesn't mean that I'm in an environment where I don't feel safe. It's actually quite the opposite. I've been really lucky. I haven't really had any serious incidents with any of my colleagues. I've never felt like discriminated against in that way. I've been like positively discriminated against. Like there was one situation where we had to work shifts, and so we were working late at night, and I didn't get those shifts because I'm a woman.
Mhm.
And it's like, I understand and I appreciate that they were trying to do a good thing for me, but at the same time it was like, it marks you as different. And I
Mhm.
think that's one of the hard things, that when you're in a group of men, they don't have to be like, objectifying you or something for you to feel that you are different. That difference is marked. And sometimes it is, I do get envious of the closeness that other colleagues can get, and that closeness is a male thing, and you kind of can't enter it without maybe giving off the wrong impression, or it's also
Yeah,
hard to
true.
express like
Yeah.
friendship or affection without having it be misconstrued.
Yeah. That's a really great point
Yep.
because um like I think from like experience, like because and Rafaela, I don't know if you experience the same, like being Brazilian, but like being Filipino, being Asian, like some people have this portrayal that we're supposed to be quiet, meek, like not really quite outspoken, doesn't swear a lot. So when like sometimes when I hear people you know swear at work, or they say something inappropriate, like the first thing that comes to my head is, oh, like if I say that, like I would get some looks, because like they might think, oh my god, did Marie really say that? I don't know if you felt like that, but maybe other people are not thinking it, but that's the thing that goes into my head.
Yeah, to be honest, I remember now a situation that before, because I'm really quiet at work most of the time, and I take my time to get, to know people and feel safe. I don't know if this is the word, correct word, but yeah, to feel more comfortable around the people and see if I can trust everybody, which is hard. But then yeah, first time that I said something like, a swear word, something like that, people were, oh my god, Rafa. And nobody could believe. And then I laughed so hard because my inner personality, I'm really outspoken. I say sometimes without filter, which is something I'm trying to get better. I used to be a lot worse. And yeah, it's fun. And also I changed it a lot. I don't know if you girls, you had the same, but I changed my personality at work a lot, because in Brazil, actually, people thought that was too hard, and maybe because it was working with loads of men at automation and coding, even though QA had a lot of women. When I moved to UK, I had to change a lot, and I received some feedback saying that I was too soft. So I kind of changed it a lot, and I'm trying to find a balance now. But yeah, I don't know if you had this experience as well.
I wouldn't say that I've changed. Like I think like I'm more, I guess, comfortable. Like I think once you get to know me, then I really become more talkative. But like I think I'm more toned down at work, but like obviously with friends, like with family, like I'm more like myself. So it's more a toned down version, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think as women, we sometimes get away with less in some things, but in other things, we get away with more. There
Mm,
are several times where I feel like because I'm a woman, I've been able to give someone, you know, negative feedback in hopefully a constructive way,
Yeah.
when maybe if I were a man, they would have been a little bit more combative or aggressive.
Yes.
Or I do feel like I am listened to more because I'm a woman, or like if I get angry, there's a part of that that's like expected. So I think it's not that I'm like completely different, but I do have to tone down a bit. Like you said, Marie, I think there's a filter. There has to be when I'm interacting with people who like have an idea of who I am. There's obviously things that I don't want to be too extreme, and I also don't want to make anyone uncomfortable.
yeah.
Yeah. Total. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Um,
This is something I had to change.
yeah. Rafaela, you mentioned a while ago that yeah, you started blogging. Maybe you can talk a bit more about like how you've contributed in terms of like your work within the testing community, because like you're quite active as well. So you've got your blog, and then you've spoken at meetups, like conferences, and like recently you also did the podcast. So what was like the main motivation in terms of sharing all these stuff to like the wider testing community?
Yeah. So, you know, this doesn't sound really good, but I started really selfish because I have bad memory. And then I tried to remember everything. So I put it on the blog because, it was public, and then, okay, it's more for me, but if you people need some help as well, just go. But of course, this changed a lot lately, and I have been doing this because I have seen, especially in the Web3 area that I'm working right now, there are not too many people talking about, um, and it's something quite new, so I completely understand why. It's like when I start to check on contract tests as well, and yeah, I think even though internet, you can find everything, sometimes you need to find out also like how you speak. You need to find like the person that is speaking a way that, okay, this one, I like the way that she writes things, or I like the meetup, her meetups. I can relate, and there are many like other things that take into account when I look for people to follow, and also like blogs and articles. And I start to do the podcasts and meetups and all these things. The talks more because as a developer, I don't know if you guys have that as well, but most of them they do. It is it's hard to public speaking. I got really really nervous and was worse, way worse. I was like physically ill, and because I was like, sometimes I had manager roles and I had to give speeches and talks and to the team, and then I was, oh my god, this is the worst, like I'm gonna like pass out here. And I start to push myself and train and practice a lot, and so I saw that I still got a bit nervous sometimes. I shake a bit, but that's it, and then it's a mindset thing, so you change it. And yeah, and that's why I also like to share, because you learn a lot when you share, so it's kind of a teaching student thing. Everybody's teaching, everybody is learning at the same time, and you get out of your bubble as well, so you see what other people are doing. And sometimes you are just focused, even though I'm a contractor, I love to be a contractor exactly because this is one of the reasons. But putting yourself there and checking what how people are doing, and you sometimes can merge experience, and you can merge things and do things better, because it's different experience, or you learn something new when you are teaching something that you used to do. So it's pretty rewarding, I think, for everybody. So yeah, that's why I continue doing it. Yeah.
I think it's so interesting that you talk about your blog posts as kind of a way for you to record and remember what you've done. I'm a very avid note taker. An extreme note taker, and for the same reason. And I also publish my notes. I mean, you could call them blog posts as well, except they're not chronological. They're topical, and they're always changing. And
Mm.
I think you kind of need that, don't you? You need some sort of way to remember what you've done because tech just moves so quickly. Like you have to be able to keep up to some degree.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like even with this, because you mentioned about, the Web3, and I know you're into like blockchain testing as well. So just linking back to what Nicole said about, there's so many things like to learn, like so many things to keep up. Like how do you prioritize like which one you're going to learn, in terms of your next, I guess, like area that you want to learn, because now you're doing some web3, some blockchain testing. So how do you decide which sort of tech you're going to like learn next, because there's so many to choose from.
Yeah, that is a really good question, because I don't know if I have uh like a technical answer for that, although it is yeah, it is a bit. So basically, I see, I like to try new things first. So I'm always trying to find what people were talking about, and as I said, I'm really active in the community, so I try to see what other people are doing, to learn what the direction the market is going as well. Not gonna deny this is one of the reasons. And also, you know it's a bit of interest as well. Web3 and blockchain, it is even a bit of personal thing, I guess, because I got scammed so many times. Which is like so embarrassing to say, I'm like in tech, I shouldn't be, but not many times, but maybe two or three, and it was, oh, it was horrible. So, and also, like, when you check what the lack of privacy that you have, even though I had loads of social media, I deleted everything that I could, not only because it was the privacy issue, but also was is something psychological, like they really start to polarize people with the information so I just got rid of all of that, because I thought this is not really make me feel better, and improve my relationship with others, because you go into a fight mode straight
Mhm.
away and defensive. And yeah, this is not the place that I want to be. I want to be more tolerant, and I think this is what is missing in our times, basically. But yeah, I decide, I go to another topic. But yeah, I decide because of the market, and also my personal interests, but it's hard to keep up. There are things that are in my backlog for a long time. For example, playwright. This is something that is being discussed for quite a long time now, and I really need to stop and try and see how it is, because people are trying already, and it seems like to be the new thing. Cloud tests as well. I have been involved in the past, but not that much. So yeah, I have like a backlog of things that I need to stop and check at some point. But yeah.
This is what contributes to imposter syndrome too, isn't it? Because there's just so much in tech. It's impossible for one person to know it all. And I know that there are, like, especially for me, because I never studied anything to do with computer science. I'm an economics major. Like
Amazing.
yeah, I thought I was going to do like lots of statistical analyses for a living. So for me, I've kind of like just happened to pick up whatever was relevant at the time, and which means there are like some glaring gaps in my knowledge. So do you? It sounds like you also have those things, like you mentioned, playwright. Like how do you figure out which ones to tackle next? Like if you have all of these, like why hasn't playwright been something that you've looked into? Is it just lack of interest, or why would you choose one over the other?
Yeah, I think you said one thing, lack of interest, because I know other tools already. Uh,
Mhm.
um, that I think
Like
they
Kasich.
huh?
Okay.
Yes, exactly. Like this one, exactly. I know this one. So it's a lot of other tools. And usually I do about the tools. I usually do a benchmark, or from time to time, when I move to another project. It's just because I have been in this project at HMRC for quite a long time now. So it's a long time that I haven't done any benchmark. But usually when I do benchmarks, I try to explore these new tools, because in 1 year, 2 years, it might change anyway. So, and then, oh my god, it's hard to keep up. But yeah.
Yeah. And I think just, one other important aspect that maybe we need to start talking about more, that, like why we're not, trying to juggle and learn every single, tech or tool that's out there is, because we want to have that, balance as well. Like it's not just about, working hard, but also like, trying to enjoy, a bit more. Like if you're trying to learn something, it has to be something that you really want to learn, that you're quite passionate about, not just because, you know, some people or a lot of people are trying to move away to that tool. Like that shouldn't just be your, main motivation in trying to learn something. Like it has to be fun as well.
Mhm.
Because I've finished reading Atomic Habits again for the second time, and one of the key, thing that, to make a habit really stick is to make it fun. So like with
Mhm.
learning, you try to make it like as fun as, possible. And because if you're trying to learn something that is, completely out of your league, like not even related to what you're doing, then you're just gonna give up. But if you try to learn something that's, within the Goldilocks rule, like something that's not too big, not too small, then that will, help you like continue like towards like, creating this habit of like learning. But yeah, it's
Totally.
all about balance. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Rafaela, what drew you to Web3 and blockchain testing?
Mm. So first, again, my family, my brother was involved in that, and he started to push me. And then I thought, oh, okay, this is not really interesting. I didn't pay too much attention. And then he was really persistent on that. And one day he found, this is another thing. That's why um, it's good to everybody share their knowledge, because everybody has a different way to explain things, and it's sometimes it's easier for other people. And I have seen a lot of videos on this topic, but there was one that I cannot record. Again, my bad memory, I cannot record of who was speaking or which channel, but they were explaining what was blockchain and was Web3, and then was like, my that gif, mind blowing, the guy it was kind of that. And then I thought, oh my god, yeah, that's it. Okay, I'm gonna move to not move, but I'm gonna really strictly learn as much as possible on my free spare time. um and yeah, when and actually there is a book that I just read, that's why I remember. It's really good. It's Bitcoin 21, everything divided by 21 billion, I think it's something like that. Yeah, it's a really good book. Was audiobook actually that I listening, but it's really good, and it explains a lot what is going on with not only privacy, but also like economy, and and yeah, that's why I went to Web3 and blockchain. Was mind blowing. Then I got really interested after my brother, pushed me like for quite some time.
So maybe now it's a good time, or it's a good topic to like lead into. So to anyone who doesn't know, Rafaela is actually the co-founder of a startup called the Chain Academy. So why don't you tell us a bit about that, like what was the, I guess, motivation and trying a startup, and how do you juggle doing all
You
this?
don't.
No.
You go crazy. Yes, crazy, really. I don't know. Sometimes I think, oh, I think with myself, oh my god, why do I do that? It's crazy, especially when I do public speaking and like shaking. And oh my god, why I put myself in these situations, really? But it's a roller coaster of emotions because I have been working as a QA for so many years, and I like to try new things again. And then I thought, oh, you know what? I feel like I'm in the comfort zone a bit, and then I thought, oh, maybe I should try something new. And then I went to this university in Palo Alto, California, and we stayed there for like a month and a half, um, studying about entrepreneurship, and but real, like we had to create a company in 2 days, so it was really fun. We had other activities as well that were quite crazy, but it's to push yourself with maybe mentally and emotionally, because it is a roller coaster sometimes. You just need to be really focused as well, which is something that I'm practicing a lot, because when you are creating a startup, you have so many things to worry about, so you need to focus on what really matters. And is yeah, I'm actually improving and practicing these skills that I could see they were really basic, let's see. But it's definitely hard to manage everything. Um, Sometimes I don't have personal life for some weeks. But but overall, it's a good experience. I don't know if I would say to everybody to try, but it's actually fun sometimes. It's not about only about downsides, as everything in life, isn't it? But yeah, it's something that I'm trying now and see how it goes. But yeah, it's so exciting as well when you are creating something new. As I said, this is part of my personality. So and I'm learning a lot about dealing with people as well, which in tech I didn't push myself too much to do that. So this is another part of me that I'm practicing a lot, and be under pressure and still be a nice person, kind of.
So what is the Chain Academy? What do you do?
So it's we are in the phase that we are creating the MVP, but it's basically a way to contribute. I cannot talk it too much yet because we are creating the waiting list, but I can assure that it's gonna be about training developers, not only developers, but anyone that wants to learn how to code Web3, in Web3 and a blockchain, NFT, any kind of everything that is related to Web3 blockchain. And it is really about shared knowledge as well, which is another thing, another value that I really believe, and sharing experiences. So yeah, basically it's that the platform that we are creating.
Nice. And as part of like the startup, like how many, like people are currently part of, this startup. So we know that there's you, and then are there any other women, or who
Yes, this is
who
another
else is
thing.
part?
So
Yeah.
this is a really interesting thing because I have worked with many people like man, woman, and everything, but I wanted to be a bit pushy on this pushy. But I'm working with two other uh, friends. They are, so one is in marketing, Camila, and the other one, she was a lawyer and she was studying development for the past, I don't know, year. And we just came together and we said, no, you know what, this is a really good one. The marketing one, Camila, she's already in Web3 kind of industry. For Dani, everything is quite new. um, but but yeah, we just thought, you know what, we have different skills, and this is another thing that you learn, not only on startups, but I think for relationships in general. You want to be, and it's good to be around people that have different knowledges, different experiences, so you kind of teach each other as well, like, oh, you know what, you could have done it, and then it's a different perspective. um and yeah, and then it's three co-founders, all women. We have more two developers in Brazil, and they are men. And soon we will have another UX girl joining, and more two interns in Brazil as well. So yeah, I'm trying to be as much as advocate, in this part of bringing women, and just motivating each other, because it's hard. It's hard, basically.
I really think that the work that you've done that's been very public really helps to get people, especially younger women who maybe are just trying to get into tech, to see like a role model, an example of someone who's already done it. But what do you have any specific advice for those kinds of people? Some like girls that maybe aren't sure if they want to get into tech.
Mm. Yeah, I can first, is about interested. So if you don't want to code, doesn't need to code properly, because tech is huge. You can go to another areas in tech industry. It don't necessarily need to know how to code, but it is basically just, sometimes it's gonna be hard. Again, this is something that I really stress about, because life is about that, but sometimes it's gonna be hard. um, and you just need to be resilient, learn to be resilient, go from there. We will all have a difficulties in life. Is something that, overcoming the obstacles. I think there is nothing better than that. I feel so good when I do something that was not good, even, like, I did something wrong, and then I try again, and then I see like the progress. And also, like, when others, and you learn from that. So it's always about improvement and learning, and trying to find a balance again, because it's gonna be ups and down the rest of your life in different areas, not only professional, but uh, just try and be brave. I think we need to be brave when try these things. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You try another thing, you go take a different path. But you tried. I think one thing that I take for my life is basically, I don't want to regret things that I have done. I want to regret things, if I can choose, of course. I want to regret things that I haven't done. Basically, I don't want to regret. Oh my god, I don't want to regret things that I haven't done.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think it's the best thing. So I go to the end of my life and say, "Ah, okay, I tried everything that I could," or took different paths, but I tried basically.
Yeah, it's about being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Rafaela, how would that advice change if we make it a little bit more specific?
Oh, okay.
Would
Yeah.
you
See,
change
again,
it
I
if
talk a
you
lot.
were talking if you were talking to yourself, let's say 15 years ago? What would you like to have heard?
Mm, go for it. Just go.
Very
Yeah,
direct to the
that's
point.
it.
Go for
Yeah.
it.
What?
Just very direct to the point. Yeah, just go for
Yes,
it.
go for it. Yeah. Just just go.
Yeah.
How about some like practical skills as well? I mean, I think we get this a lot. Like people ask, how do you start though? Like, let's say you want to get into tech. What's the first thing that you would do?
Mm, what is the first thing that I would do? Yeah, I think um first I would see what area I wanna go in tech, because this is really important. So I would try, checking what coding is about, what Scrum Master is about, what QA is about, what a DevOps is about, what are the difference and what you need to learn and how it's going to be the daily basis on these all different positions that you have in tech. And then from there, UX as well. And then from there, I would see what I can relate more, what I like more. And even if it is, you can still choose, see in the middle of the way that this is not exactly what you want to do, because many people, they start and learn and everything, and then in the middle of the way they say, oh, you know what, this is not really for me, and then you change to another one, which is okay, but at least you are figuring out yourself what is going to be the path, and as soon as you start is better, so you can figure out things faster as well.
Yeah, I think that's really important to research first which area in tech, because there's a lot of different like roles out there, like what Rafaela said. It's not just about doing web development or like coding in general. There's also other areas where like certain skills, it doesn't have to be like coding skills, but like there's also other skills where it's quite important. So it's just, I guess, trying to break that like misconception that tech is all about coding, but there's also other areas where it requires technical skills but doesn't have to be about coding. So I think that's quite an important advice.
Yes, totally. And even business analysts, if you want to work with people more, there are so many things, but yeah. And it's funny because by now, I thought that people would be more aware of that, but yeah, there are so many people that they think it's just coding still. So yeah, I think we need to talk more about that as well, in the community.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I think it's time for us to wrap this episode. If any of you want to reach out to Rafaela, I've added her social media information, and as well as the website for the Chain Academy. So if you want to join the wait list, if you want to know more about like what this awesome startup is about, and I've added the links down in the on the description down below. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully we'll be back again with another episode of Adobo and Avocados.
Yeah, thank you. Bye, guys.
Yeah, thank
Thank you so
you.
much.
Thanks for coming on. Bye
Bye.
everyone.